welcome to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. I am Cousin Sal. My name is actually in the title. Hey, before we get going with our regular nonsense, please know we are thinking about everyone who has been affected by the horrible fires here in California. An unimaginable few days for many. Thanks to all the brave firefighters and fire responders who are doing everything they can, and my sincere hope for brighter days and a more positive year ahead for everyone. Now, as we move forward, a huge weekend of pigskin action has already kicked off tonight. We have the second college football semifinal game between Ohio State and Texas, and then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, loaded with NFL wildcard action. Coming up, we're going to talk to senior NFL insider for The Athletic, Dianna Russini, about all the NFL coaching changes. I have Dianna penciled in for that Titans GM gig. Maybe she already has it. We're going to see how good her poker face is. Plus, from the Against All Odds podcast, Brother Bri will join me. We're going to give out our NFL picks and props, and thankfully, because it's the postseason, there will be zero discussion about his Raiders or my Cowboys. But before any of that, it's time for our favorite recycled segment that actually involves recycling. That's because it requires producer Mikey Meatballs to throw a crumpled up piece of paper with a thought written on it. I'll catch it, I'll read it, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the issue. We call this Tossing Topics. All right, fire away, Meatballs. What do we have? Oh, incentive week. All right, incentive week. It's hard to disagree with the fact that player incentive clauses made the final week of the NFL regular season a lot more interesting. I might go as far as to say tolerable. The best one was by far and away Tampa Bay Bucks receiver Mike Evans, who made a lot of bucks, $3 million specifically, for this catch that put him over 1,000 yards. He cashed in on his bonus. Who cares that had he fumbled, he could have potentially put his team in jeopardy of losing the game and the division title? That's all secondary. But it wasn't just big name players. Bills punter Sam Martin earned a $100,000 bonus for nailing his 25th punt inside the 20-yard line. There were dozens of others, a lot you could wager on too, and I love incentive-based betting, especially in Week 18. That's really all Week 18 should be about. But let's branch off into the ridiculous. How about an all-expense-paid trip to the Amazon for Aaron Rodgers every time he attempts manslaughter on one of his wide receivers? And it shouldn't stop at the players. Let's involve the coaches too. If Sean McVay reaches speeds of 18 miles per hour chasing down a ref, give him a bonus. And since we're being generous, let's extend the incentives to this show too. Mikey Meatballs, if you could hit me squarely on top of the head with a golf ball, you will be the proud recipient of this gift card to Topgolf. All right, Mikey? Here we go. Do it from there. Why not? Here we go. Oof. Take your card. I think I won a trip to the Blue Tent. All right, Meatballs, this time with the paper variety. Here we go. All right. Request to interview. Okay, besides broken resolutions, request to interview was the phrase of the week. Honestly, this week LinkedIn should have signed on as an official sponsor to the NFL. Now, I get it. As a result of past tampering and because the Patriots are cheaters at everything, if they would like an interview with a current coach, every team now has to raise their hand like they're in elementary school asking if they could use the bathroom. The NFL hiring process has become like one big wedding invitation. At the request of the Chicago Bears, we cordially invite you to interview for our coaching opening. Please RSVP to us by January 10th. Oh, and let us know if you prefer chicken or fish to be served at that meeting. Teams asking permission to talk to coaches that are under contract, it's a little strange. It's like someone else asking if they could take your wife out dancing. Sure, I guess. You know, she loves Merlot, by the way. Have a blast. Go get her good and liquored up. The best was the Bears asking the Cowboys if they could interview Mike McCarthy. The Bears wanted to fly McCarthy out, dine and dine him. The whole thing would have been awkward, and I'm not even talking about his request for a seatbelt extension. The Cowboys eventually denied the request, and I think I know why. Had the Bears introduced McCarthy to deep dish pizza, it's game over. Who cares if Chicago doesn't have C.D. Lamb? I promise, he's going deep dish over deep pass. These fat jokes are a lot funnier if I wasn't also fat. Okay, I'm working on it, 2026. Anyway, can we not be so damn formal with all the requests? Next year, let's just text like everybody else. This is a league where guys are wetting their pants and vomiting on the sidelines after long kickoff returns. We don't need to act like this is a meeting with the Queen. Hit me, Meatballs, one more time. What you got? All right, we got Gun celebrations. Oh boy. You know, I try not to get political on this show, and I won't. So let's get into something controversial that really doesn't need to be. I've often said the strongest gun laws shouldn't be in the NFL, but judging by the penalties on these celebrations, it seems like they are. Last Sunday, Tampa's Jalen McMillan was hit with an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for finger guns or pointing for a first down. It's really tough to tell. 15-yard punishment, even though this could have been a harmless super soaker or a paintball gun or even a salute to the late President Jimmy Carter. Again, tough to decipher. Also, the hypocrisy. They fire off cannons in Tampa for touchdowns. How could it sound like we're winning the Civil War at one end of the stadium and watching Law & Order Special Teams Unit on the other? I actually think this should be celebrated. If you're going to shoot someone, do it as a simulation with cute fingers. I'm 100% in, and I promise, if this becomes the trend on the streets, this country would be a much safer and slightly weirder place. All right, that does it for Tossing Topics. Now, it's time for my irrationally angry attempt to make rational sense of a somewhat irrational bet. It's a playoff edition of Wager Radio. Okay, big one tonight in Dallas, the closest I'm going to get to a Cowboys playoff game. The second semifinal game, this one between Texas and Ohio State. It's at the Cotton Bowl in Texas. They were going to hold this at the Synthetic Fiber Bowl, but Cotton wins again. Oh well. On Against All Odds yesterday, I gave out the Longhorns plus the points. I am taking Texas plus 5.5. See, I would never lie to you. I'm going to add a player prop, though. Longhorns wide receiver Matthew Golden to score a touchdown at plus 125. He has 9 touchdown grabs this year, scored last week versus ASU, and even struck pay dirt against Michigan, you know, that team the Buckeyes couldn't beat. The Golden Boy does it again. Matthew Golden, anytime touchdown, plus 125. Go to FanDuel Sportsbook and get that in ASAP, or at least before kickoff. All right, now let's talk NFL coaching carousel and Wildcard weekend with NFL insider Dianna Russini.
All right, we're kicking off 2025 with a great guest. I requested permission from The Athletic to interview her, and you know what? They didn't grant it, so I guess we're going to incur tampering fines or something. Senior NFL insider and host of the Scoop City podcast, Dianna Russini. What's happening, Dianna?
What's up? I'm a rule breaker, so I'm doing everything illegal right now. The Athletic was like, do not do his show. They let me do every other, which I'm sure you've seen.
Right.
They're just like pushing me to the curb, like, just go away, girl. But this was the one they didn't want me to do, but let's do it. Let's break all the laws.
It makes all the sense. We'll share an NFL cell together. Goodell has us underground somewhere. Listen, how many times do you think you've said or typed the words requested permission to interview this week?
So you would have thought I worked for Jets.com yesterday. Earlier in the week, it was just the Jets were really organized, actually, and they're casting a really wide net and putting in a lot of requests because on Monday morning is when it became legal for them to put in the slips. I wonder if Mike Tannenbaum's getting paid per interview at this point, because he's not. But I mean, they've
you don't know that. Yeah.
What? Yeah. You never know. They put in requests for, I'm not kidding, it's got to be over 24 people now between the general managers and the head coaches. And part of me is like, all right, I get it. They want to see what everyone has to offer, but how difficult must that be to keep track of it? To figure out like who is who and remember who was that. And you know, Rex Ryan met with them in person in Florida. Mike Vrabel met with them at Florham Park, which that was weird. Like Jeff Ulbricht's like out on the field running around with the guys, like getting prepared for a game. And Mike Vrabel's just walking around the facility. Ron Rivera was there the day before, just walking around. It's crazy. But yeah, right now, every team is just going full steam ahead here, trying to get these interviews in the can.
But the Jets are especially annoying with the request. They're like the drunk guy at the wedding approaching the DJ and say, but play Living on a Prayer. And he's like, yeah, we played that already, right? Like the Jets are, it would make sense that they were out of the box annoying.
Yeah, they're like Love Shack, you know, they definitely put in a few requests of those. The B-52 is just like, dude, no one likes that song.
Right. All right. So let's stay in the division with the Patriots. And our New England overlord, Bill Simmons, said Gerard Mayo should have been fired before the season finale. And Robert Kraft said firing Mayo was the toughest thing he's ever had to do. I think both Simmons and Kraft are out of their minds. What do you feel?
Yeah, Bill is definitely out of his mind. You know, it's funny. I almost messaged him on Sunday morning because the heat really got hot from the people I was talking to. And I was like, maybe I'll just let Bill know just to be nice, maybe maybe he'll enjoy the day. But obviously the way they won the game didn't help anything. So I'm glad I didn't jump into that hornet's nest.
Yeah.
So look, I feel there's a couple ways we can look at this story. I appreciated Robert Kraft's openness with the media, actually. I thought he did a really good job of just going, look, he wasn't ready. I thought he was. I made a mistake. There were examples in the meeting rooms, on the field, off the field, that this was not the way New England wants to do it. And ownership knew this. And I do think it was difficult for him because it is personal and he does care about, if there's one owner who has such great relationships with his former players, it's Robert Kraft, right? He's done such a good job over the years. When you win that much, you tend to love your guys.
Yeah.
So I think it was difficult for him just because of that personal connection. But I think
tell me if I'm wrong, but more selfishly on Kraft's part, I don't think he wants to be known as the organization like the Panthers with the one and dones. Like, they have this history and we have a coach. We want that coach for a decade or 2 decades. And so as much as he may have liked Gerard Mayo, he also is like, oh, but I don't want to fall into this flimsy organizational tap.
Oh, 100%. You do not want to be the one and done team. Look at the New York Giants. I know that's not a one and done team, but it's like painting John Mara to stick with Brian Dable. He's like, yes, I believe in them, but they'll be fired the second they lose. You know what I mean? Like, just try to work through the emotions of it. Whereas I think Kraft saw this thing coming full steam ahead and was like, you know what? I'm getting off this train right now. Let's recenter and figure out what we want to do next year. Oh, wait, it's so easy to get a divorce if somebody smoking hot is out on the free agency.
Right.
Right. It's a trapeze artist special. And so obviously with Ben Johnson, who's the hottest offensive play caller in the league right now, and of course, Mike Vrabel being the lead candidate in New England, you let go of one and you hope you can go grab the other.
Who gets it out of those two? You think it's definitely one of those two? And
yeah, I have the only reason why I give Vrabel the edge on this, outside of all the great things that we know about him, and I do think he's one of the best coaches in football. I think the comfort Robert Kraft will have with a New England person, everything we know about people that come from New England, they just do it a certain way. It's different. It works for them, but it makes them feel comfortable. All the qualities that you think of when you think of the way New England wants to do it, to me, that's a slam dunk if Mike Vrabel wants the job.
Okay. Sorry, back to the Jets for a minute. And Aaron Rodgers. Now, I'm going to speak ill of him, and I know you're a big fan, and you're going to reprimand me for this because you're over the top. No one can say anything bad about Aaron Rodgers around you. But listen, I think I've turned the corner. I still can't stand him, but I've turned the corner on whether or not he should play next year. I look back, and I hope, they won that last game. I hope he looks at his stats and says, hey, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,900 yards. Not that I could be of service to a team. And then I hope he does this and goes and loses 11, 12 games for the Raiders next year. Are you ready, or can you not stomach any more of this?
I can stomach it. I want to see more Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's such a good quarterback when he's healthy.
Oh, no, you don't.
And when he's bought in. Look, the stuff with Rodgers is it's the off the field stuff. It's the mind games. It's the attention. It's all the things that come with him that you guys talk about on the show all the time. But when it comes to football, that's not the way an organization needs to run. And he needed a really strong head coach that could put him in a position of just playing quarterback and worrying about that. And being a leader and being a good teammate and being the Aaron Rodgers, the best version of him. And we've seen it before, but I don't necessarily believe we ever really saw the best version of Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to compliment him either way from this.
I would be shocked if he doesn't play. I would be shocked.
Okay, but so he'd have to let go of this I'm bringing my guys in thing. He'd have to go on a team that had a strong head coach already, all the things you just said, right? So I wonder what even is a good fit at this point. It's not the Jets again, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work anymore. I think both sides know, this wasn't great. Although he did say this was the best 2 years of his life, which that was shocking to me.
I believe it, but it's all has to do with traveling in the Amazon and taking Iowa. It has nothing to do with football, I don't think.
Yeah, he's like that Egypt trip that really stood out to me. And the beat reporter's like, wait, what? You went to Egypt? Oh, that's where you went?
What do you think about Bill Belichick? Had he waited, not taken the job at Chapel Hill, would there have been an opening for him this year?
No, great question, because I do. I think the New York Jets would have had a conversation with him.
Oh, wow.
So it happened. Right. So Bill took the job that Tuesday, and I stepped into it that Friday that he had reached out to the Jets. And I was like, wait. Everyone needs to tell me how this all came about. So
Simmons gets very upset by this, but I think this is a distinct possibility, and you're about to confirm it.
Okay.
Yes.
So 2 weeks prior, Belichick and Mike Tannenbaum, who's leading the search for the New York Jets here, for the new head coach and general manager, had a conversation like, look, we don't want to go to Jacksonville, or Bill doesn't want to go to Jacksonville. Jacksonville wasn't interested. No team is calling. Why don't we be proactive here and reach out to the Jets? Bill saying to Tannenbaum, can you give Woody Johnson sort of a sales pitch of, hey, I'd be open to having a conversation. Let's see what we can do. Obviously, the Jets hear this and they're like, what? Like, what? Are you kidding? Do you think saying the things that you said over the last year on the Manning cast and on every podcast that you went on, crushing the New York Jets and ownership was smart if you really wanted to work here? Yet the Jets were like, well, maybe we should have a conversation. And they weren't able to get this all set because the UNC thing started to really get steam, and people were pushing him to take that opportunity seriously, because the reality is the Jets could have easily just said, now we're not really going to do this. Or maybe Woody would have changed his mind and didn't want to meet with him. But just the fact, to me, it's one of the stories of the year. The fact that there was a world where Bill Belichick possibly would have met with the New York Jets for their head coaching job, and the history that they have. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, and I see, man. Now I'm thinking. I wonder if, going back a ways, the disrespect the Falcons showed him and forcing him to take 2 interviews. I wonder if that shied him away from thinking, all right, I can't be embarrassed here and turn down UNC and then have nothing from the NFL.
It's a great point. He hated that interview process with the Falcons. Mm-hmm. So I just think that overall process to him. Look, he hasn't done it in a long time. I kind of think of the same thing with Kraft right now. I know you made fun of all the reporting I'm doing on all the request slips that are going out. Does Robert Kraft even know how to put in a request slip? No. He didn't do it with Mayo. He hasn't hired a new coach in over 23 years.
Right. Yeah. No, that's that game is behind him, I'm sure.
He's faxing. He's like, why isn't this fax machine working?
I have this abacus, but no one's responding. We can't get an interview. All right, listen, we have more with NFL insider Dianna Russini. We're going to talk to her about Wildcard Weekend, and I'm going to put her to the toughest test of 2025, Cousin's Conundrum, coming up on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend, here with senior NFL insider for The Athletic. We just broke a story during the break that Mike McCarthy had a chicken parm hero with barbecue chips for lunch. Who would have known? Dianna Russini. Dianna, so the NFL news cycle never stops. We talked about it right before you jumped on, actually. What's the strangest place you've ever been where you broke a story?
What, are you trying to set me up like Schefter? I can't believe he revealed that story. I'm like, Adam, he's not even Adam is such a private person. I was shocked. Yeah. I was shocked he said that, but this is what I love when people get older. It's just kind of like you see this with veteran players. They just start saying whatever the heck they want, because why not? Right. At this point, look, I have 2 little boys, 3 and 2. So my house is a constant zoo. So I'd say probably the worst situation I've ever been in terms of breaking a story. It led to one. Both my sons, they take tubs together because it's just easier for me. And I had to take a call. And you know how it works with kids in tubs, water, all of that, dangerous.
You run out of situation. Hands. Yeah.
You run out of hands and they can't swim. They're like little guys. Mm-hmm. But I had to take a call. There are some people in football, if they call you, you better answer, because when you call them back, they don't answer. It's so annoying. Mm. So I'm like, I got to take this call. So I do one of these half and halves, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because they're, the kids hit their dinosaur heads together. It's loud, and I'm just trying to keep it normal. So I'm in the hallway. I'm like, and I'm trying to remember everything he's telling me because it's a good story. And my kids just start screaming. And one of them went to the bathroom in the tub, which grossed out the other one, which then caused the other one to throw up. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of disgusting stuff going on. So I'd say that was probably the worst case situation. And I remember in that moment going, I don't know if I'm going to cry or if I should just laugh at this, because this is insane.
All right, wild card weekend. Do you like any upsets?
The Broncos and the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, man.
Okay. So I talked to a few guys on the Chiefs after their game, and we were just like talking about players love to talk about other teams more than they like to talk about their own team, which is really funny. But I did ask a few of them, like, okay, who's your biggest threat? AFC, like, what's the team you're worried about? And I'm like ready for Bills and Ravens and, the Broncos, right? Their defense is so good. And it seems like this offense is getting better every week. Bo Nix is getting more comfortable. Sean Payton obviously just leads the charge here and has complete control over this team, has the pulse of them like no other. He just knows how to get the most out of everybody in every situation. And there's something magical about naivete and just being young and not knowing any better. And these are the types of teams that are dangerous, right? Where they're just like, we can't believe we're here. Like, we're here with a rookie quarterback that no other organization was even thinking about drafting. Yet he's the guy that's the future of the Denver Broncos. So this isn't a knock on the Bills. Look, a rookie quarterback going into Buffalo against Josh Allen, holy crap, that's scary and intimidating and everything that comes with it. But this is one of those matchups I won't be surprised, and I'll be messaging if it happens.
Dianna, you made it this far. I've got one last question for you. We call this Cousins Conundrum.
Cousins Conundrum.
Here is the conundrum. I have a feeling I know which side you're going to fall on this. You are out there and you break the top sports story of the year. Let's say it involves Taylor and Travis eloping, okay? But if you break the story, your husband, a huge Eagles fan, also breaks his foot kicking the living room ottoman after Philly loses to Green Bay this week. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. Do you break the story if it means he breaks his foot?
Yes. Do you understand the hell I'm living in over the next few weeks? Like, the idea that Jalen Hurts is going through this concussion protocol, and we know this change. This is a story of whether or not the Philadelphia Eagles are going to probably continue in the playoffs or get bounced, one and done. The either way, if the Eagles don't win the Super Bowl, I'm going to probably be miserable. So I might as well get some career success, squeeze some juice out of that thing, because at least that makes me happy. Because dealing with the Eagles fandom and the obnoxiousness is certainly an issue in my house, and I don't like it.
Okay, I figured you'd answer that way, but a broken foot out 6 to 8 weeks, he can't help with the kids. The bath thing is still a problem.
I just had this conversation with someone this morning. I'm not feeling that great. And when you become a parent, when you get sick, you don't even think about yourself. You just think, how am I going to do this with these little guys? But yeah, I think it's, to me, breaking a story trumps anything to do with, trumps anything over Kev.
Okay. That's amazing. Sorry, Kev. We have to root for the Eagles at least one more week. I appreciate that. Hey, go and listen to Scoop City with Dianna Russini and Chase Daniel, wherever you get your podcast. Dianna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks. That was fun.
I appreciate it. We're going to break down Wildcard Weekend with Brother Bri coming up next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Let's get to Wild Card Weekend with a wild card himself, a man who already broke his New Year's resolution to not get kicked out of a high school girls basketball game. From the Against All Odds podcast, Brother Bri. What's happening, Bri?
What's going on, buddy?
Bri, you had a birthday this week, and your Las Vegas Raiders gifted you with quite a present. It was a double firing Antonio Pierce, and then a couple days later, GM Tom Telesco. Did you write out the thank you card yet? I must know.
I mean, what a birthday gift. So, it was funny. I thought Pierce was gone. but then Telesco, I just assumed he was keeping his job, right? He drafts Bowers, made some other moves there. So, but I guess Brady's bringing in his own guys. I don't know what he's planning on doing. Maybe bring back Josh McDaniels or something. But Sal, I did the other day on my birthday, I did almost get thrown out of a girls' basketball game. So
did you really?
Yeah,
I was joking.
The security guard came up to my sister and I for screaming at the officials. Yep.
Oh, wow. And not to wish you a happy birthday. Wow, that's very sad and so very funny, too, at the same time. All right, Bri, let's look at the very exciting weekend ahead. Here we go. We're going to start Chargers and the Texans. Chargers 2.5-point favorite in Houston. I really want to win this, Bri. I was like 2-11 in the playoffs last year. It was pathetic. I had a decent regular season, and I went 2-11. And this is the game, not this specific game, but the Texans at home last year against Cleveland started me off. It was bad. I love the Browns, and it was a similar situation, small spread. Now we have a not as impressive C.J. Stroud going out there against Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, who seem to be the more balanced team. Believe it or not, the Chargers, though, played the easiest schedule in football, especially early on. I'm biting. I'm taking the dog here. I'm taking the Texans plus the 2.5. We make fun of the fact that the Houston is the Shakey's team. They've had 8 playoff games, and they've all been the early Saturday game. It used to be Schaub versus Dalton. Might as well have Schaub do the coin toss there. Texans 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 January games. Stroud, like I said, no stranger to the playoffs. 3 touchdown passes against the Browns in that first game last year. Collins has dynamite game. Mixon has big play potential for the Texans. I think the offensive line holds up. 23-19 final, Bri. You're going the other way.
Yeah, how dare you? I'm going the other way here. I'm taking the Chargers minus 2.5. And Sal, I know you're worried about, last year, right? You saw that Texans game at home in the playoffs, and you decided to, now you decided to jump on it. But look, this Texans team is a little bit different, right? They finished 4-5 in their last 9. That includes losing 3 of their last 4 at home. And like you were saying, Stroud just been a little bit worse this season, right? He's not getting them out of jams like he did last year. And some of that has to do with their offensive line, which has been bad recently. The run game hasn't gotten going. And I trust Harbaugh as a big game coach, right? I think he's going to have the Chargers prepared here, which sounds funny. But Herbert looked, he's looked healthy. He's looked really good in his last 4 games. So I think the Chargers are going to cover the spread here at minus 2.5.
All right. A lot of people agree with you. Let's take a prop from the game. I'm wild swings today, Bri. Texans 5 or more sacks plus 490. This is going to be the wild card of the wild card weekend, I think. Can Houston get to Justin Herbert? That's what they need to do to succeed. I'm betting yes. I'm betting it happens 5 or more times. Chargers get a lot of credit for their pressures, but Texans were 4th in the league in sacks. 5+ sacks. They did that 4 times. They had a 4 sack game a bunch of times. This is going to be the difference. Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, 23 sacks. Combined, they put Herbert down. Take the adjusted 5+ at plus 490. What do you have?
Yeah, not bad. So I'm taking J.K. Dobbins to have over 14.5 rushing attempts. And, we all know Harbaugh likes to establish the run game, right? He continues to lean on the run to open up the pass. And, since Dobbins came back from the injury, I thought maybe Harbaugh would limit him a little bit, but he has had 18 and 19 carries in these last 2 games. Now, he might not get 20, but I think it's safe bet to say he gets 15 or more, especially looking at that Ravens game, the huge holes that Henry got against him when he last played. I think, Harbaugh takes advantage of that, and Dobbins goes over 14.5 rush attempts.
All right, moving on to the night game. This is the Amazon game, right? Baltimore 9.5-point favorite. Pittsburgh comes to town. 43.5 is the over-under. Supposed to be very cold. So here's a decision to make. Is the worst playoff team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who dumped their last 4 games coming into the postseason, going to hang with Baltimore, clearly better and playing with much greater momentum, simply because they have in the past stayed with them? What do? Baltimore's much better. Pittsburgh, these have been close games aside from the 34-17. The last time they played, they were all around 18-16. I think they're not staying with them. I know Zay Flowers is out, but this is a 15-degree weather game where Al Michaels is going to be screaming, begging to go home. And the Ravens are going to be screaming to win this game on the ground. Feed Derrick Henry 20 times, let him hit his triple digits, and let Russell Wilson make a mistake or 2, and that's going to do it. So this is an offense for Pittsburgh that's averaged 14 a game down the stretch. That's not enough. Baltimore, 5-1 against the spread in their last 6. The Steelers haven't won or covered a playoff game in 8 years. That seems crazy, but 2016, Might even be 9 years if you want to count. Yes, that is 9 years. Anyway, Ravens walk away with a big win, 30-13. Bri, you're going against me again.
Yeah, I'm going against you. I'm taking the Steelers plus 9.5. Although what you just read off that they have not covered since 2016 or 15.
I might have made that up.
It sounds fake, but it's a really good one. But it's funny. I thought you were actually going to take the Steelers in this one, but I do get it the way the Ravens have looked and the way the Steelers have looked so bad over the last 4 weeks. But I think the 9.5 is just a little too high, Sal, especially when this is a division rival that knows them so well. And you could say, look, somebody might say, look, the Ravens destroyed the Steelers 34-17 the last time out. But that was actually a really close game, right? Without Russell Wilson had those 2 bad turnovers, that fumble, and then that pick 6. Without that, that's actually a really close game. They might have had a chance to win, actually, or just at least keep it within 7. So, and then, prior to that, the Steelers had won this series 4 straight low-scoring games. I know Lamar only played in one of them, but I don't know. I just think 9.5 is a little bit too much. And I could totally see Russell getting a backdoor cover here late in this game with some, cheap little touchdown pass.
All right, let's hit a prop for this. Henry, 2+ touchdowns. That's my bet, plus 340. I'm just going to add on to what you said, because you have Henry to be the leading rusher on Saturday.
Yeah.
That seems crazy. That's
Great.
like minus 150. You're going to give us another prop in a second, but I like Henry 2 or more touchdowns in this game. 16 touchdowns on the year. He busted off 2 against the Browns last week. He's had a couple each against other playoff teams, games against Denver, Washington, Buffalo, ground and pound, 25 carry range, maybe 23. 2 of those 23 are touchdowns, plus 340. Bri, tell us yours.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mark Andrews, anytime touchdown, plus 135. Imagine after week 3 or 4, right? Some fantasy owners were like, I'm dropping this guy. He's not doing anything. But it was only a matter of time, right? He started to break out. He ended the season with 11 touchdowns. He scored in his last 6 games and 10 of his last 12. So he's been great. And one of those touchdowns he had in the last Steelers game here. So, plus 135 for a guy that Lamar loves in the red zone, I think is great value here, Sal.
All right, let's go on to, I'd like to do it by day, but we can't. We got to use one of the Sunday games here before we go to break. Buffalo, 8.5-point favorite, 47.5. Denver comes to town. This is a lot of people sneaky dog, these Broncos. Peter Schrager said it on Mad Dog. Dianna Russini mentioned it on this program a few minutes ago. I don't see it. It's tough for a rookie to win on the road, first playoffs start. I know Jordan Love did it against the Cowboys. It still hurts. I might have another example coming up later, but I don't think it's going to be in this one. And I know Denver's defense has been superb at times, and Sean Payton is laser focused on one of the most focused playoff coaches out there. But no upset here. As a favorite of 8 or more at home, Allen 23-1 straight up. I think grabbing the 8.5 is a sucker bet. I like Buffalo minus the points. They're going to score, and maybe you don't like their defense, but Denver only put up 24 points against the pathetic Bengals defense a couple weeks ago. Let's remember that. Too many offensive weapons for Buffalo, 525 points, tops in the league. You give me Josh Allen to roll against a game but green Broncos team, 34-16. Bills Mafia, don't hurt yourself. What do you got?
Yeah, I like that score here, Sal. At first glance, I thought the 8.5 was a little bit high, but I do like backing the Bills anyway here. Like you were saying, a rookie QB playing in freezing conditions with a crazy home crowd seems like a lot to overcome, right? So, and I think Josh Allen didn't get to play last week. I do think it might take a series or 2 for Buffalo to get their offense rolling, but once it does, it's going to be hard to stop, right? The Bills did score 30 or more in 9 of their last 10 games, excluding that Week 18 game. So let's say that. But Buffalo was 6-2 against the spread at home. I just think Knicks, in order for them to be in this game, Knicks has to be great. I think that's just asking a lot for a rookie quarterback, even though he might be 35 years old.
Yeah, no shit. 35. You might be underselling it. All right, here's a prop. James Cook, running back for the Bills, anytime touchdown, minus 125, 18 total touchdowns. The guy sniffs the end zone like every week, it seems. 7 of the last 8 at least, 10 of the last 12. 10 of the last 12, and we're talking minus 125. Josh Allen gets them down to the 2. James Cook takes them in. It's kind of the opposite of what Philadelphia's got going. I really don't know why this is minus 125. A guy like Henry, who also has similar numbers, is minus 210 to score a touchdown. So why is James Cook minus 125? I know doesn't have the big name like Henry, but I think he gets the big game. Minus 125 anytime touchdown. What do you have?
Yeah, I like that, Sal. I also like an Allen touchdown too. I like those two guys both running the ball then. But I'm going to go with Bo Nix to have over 5.5 rushing attempts at plus 108. You know, this has only gone over 8 of 17 times for Nix, but he has had 7 or more rushing attempts in 3 of his last 4 games. And again, I think in order for a rookie quarterback like Nix to have success of any kind in this game, he's got to get outside the pocket. He's got to run a little bit when the opportunities are there. And I think Bo Nix is the type of competitor, right, who's going to do anything in his power to try to win this game. So I would take the over 5.5 rushing attempts here, Sal.
All right, Bri, good stuff. It's time for a quick break. We're going to get to Sunday's NFC games, and I push Bri into making a decision on the Eagles-Packers next when Cousin Sal's winning weekend continues. All right, welcome back to Cousin Sal's winning weekend here with Brother Bri from the Against All Odds podcast. Let's see if he has any brotherly love for Philly. They are a 4.5-point favorite versus the Packers Sunday afternoon. Bri, I wish I knew that both quarterbacks were 100%, right?
Yeah.
We have Jalen Hurts surviving concussion protocol. I'm guessing Jordan Love got banged up in a meaningless Week 18. Maybe not the best decision to have him in there, but aside from that, I do like the coaching matchup from Green Bay's standpoint. Matt LaFleur, 9-2 against the spread in a revenge spot as a road dog. Also, an 80% cover rate in a wild card or divisional round game. Pretty damn good for him. They lost a close one, Green Bay did, in Brazil Week 1. I just think the NFC North is a different beast, and it's going to show these first couple weeks of the playoffs. Green Bay is going to run effectively. They had 163 yards on the ground against Philly the first time. Should be a last possession type game, and I like Green Bay to pull out. Bri, I'm going to think it's going to be high scoring too. 29-24, Packers. Take it. What do you like?
Yeah, I'm with you here, Sal. I'm taking the 4.5 points with the Packers. You know, I felt great about the Packers a few weeks ago. I think I was telling you guys I liked them to win the NFC, although that I've tamed a little bit on that. Not as great, especially with some of the injuries with Watson on the defensive side of the ball. But I do still think the Packers keep this one close. Like you were saying, LaFleur is just a great coach. And, you know, we saw how well they played in the playoffs last year on the road, right? They could have, you know, they killed Dallas, could have won in San Francisco. And then if you look at this season, they went 5-2 on the road, and the 2 losses were a 3-point loss to Detroit and a 2-point loss to Minnesota. And like you were saying, Sal, this first matchup was super close between them. And look, Hurts has not played in like 3.5 weeks right here. So, you know, he could be a little bit rusty coming out of the gate here. So I think Green Bay gets off to a good start. They keep this one close. You know, I have a feeling if I was going to bet it, I'd say maybe the Eagles win this one by, you know, field goal late. But I like having the 4.5 points or so.
Let's take the points. It's fun. Let's also take this prop here. This is a good one. FanDuel's loaded up with combination props. And this is a combination of A.J. Brown, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley to combine for 4 or more touchdowns. That's 7-1 odds. I'm going a little nuts here, Brian. I don't usually like these, and I realize now this is similar to the one the Parlay Kid tried to sell me on Sharp Tank the other day. But I already wrote it down. So this is a little different. All 3 playing in the same game. First time they played, Barkley had 3. A.J. Brown had 1. They've had 38 touchdowns between them, these 3 players. 700 is a good value for this, plus 700. And then, Bri, when they push Hurts 6 times into the end zone, those screams you hear from 3,000 miles away will be from me. I think there's going to be some scoring. We just need a couple from Brown and Jacobs. There we go.
I like that. I like that, Sal. That's good value there. You could get, you know, if Jacobs or Barkley get 2 touchdowns, is a good shot. Although you could always bet one of those guys to have 3 too, right? Jacobs or Barkley to have 3 touchdowns are good odds as well.
So many options.
It's a lot of options here, but
so sad it's going to end soon.
Yeah, so maybe my option's not as good here, but I'm taking Tucker Kraft to record a 20-yard reception at plus 120. You know, with Christian Watson out, or, you know, him being hurt and tearing his ACL, which first of all probably shouldn't have been playing in that game. You know, this offense is going to need to make some big plays down the field, which they still will. And Tucker Kraft is one of these guys, right? Really consistent for the Packers, making big plays down the field. He's had a 20-yard reception in 5 straight games, and he's done it 10 times this season in their first meeting with the Eagles. Even though the Eagles are good against tight ends, in the first meeting, Kraft did have a 29-yard catch. So it is pretty amazing for a guy like, you know, his size, that he consistently makes big plays down the field. So Kraft gets another 20-yard reception at plus 120. So
All right, let's go to the Sunday night game, Tampa and Washington. Mike, I can't believe I get 3 hours of Baker Mayfield. Am I the luckiest guy in the world? Bucks are 3-point favorite at home. 50.5 is the over-under. This is a fun one, too. I'm going to take a little bit of a swing, not a wild one, but a swing with the rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Forget everything I said about rookie quarterbacks on the road in the playoffs. No, I think this is where it's going to happen, not in the Bo Nix case. A tough spot. But, he has a couple nice road wins. He beat the Bengals. He whipped the Cardinals. He's got some division wins. He played the Eagles tough twice, right? Winning one and basically won a night playoff game against Atlanta a couple weeks ago. So Jaden Daniels is not going to be scared off. I know they lost earlier in the year to Tampa Bay, but the Commanders, I feel, have rounded into shape here, pretty healthy. Plus Tampa, listen to this, 0-4 in night games this year. Not this week. That would be crazy. If they're playing 5 this week, I would definitely take Washington. But Tampa Bay, thanks for the NFC South money. I bet you to win the division. I think you're a bit fraudulent. I'd buy a 0.5 point to take it to 3.5 because we could be staring at Chase McLaughlin lining up for a winning field goal at the end. But I'm going to take a shot with Dan Quinn and the Commies. 27-26, Bri. You too, huh?
Well, look, I'm leaning the Washington with the point, Sal, but I am taking Harry's best bet and going over 50.5.
Oh, right.
Here.
That's right. Okay.
But look, both Tampa and Washington were great on the overs. Tampa going 12-5, Washington going 11-6. Tampa going over in 5 of their last 6 games. And Sal, we saw in the first matchup, right, 57 points. So both these teams, their offenses can be explosive at times. Bucks were 3rd in total offense, top 5 in scoring. Both these teams were top 5 in scoring. So, look, I don't necessarily trust the Bucks defense here. Washington's defense hasn't been as good the second half of the season here. So I think this lends itself to a very high-scoring game, Sal, with Daniels kind of matching what Baker does in this game.
You always love Harry's picks. Why is that? You're always stealing his picks.
This is the first time.
Sad. I know. It'll be the last. All right, Baker, I'm going, I don't like his team, but I like him to run for 25 or more yards, 100, plus 170. I think plus 170 at 25 is great. He's at 25 or more in 3 of his last 4. It's crazy what he's doing with his legs, basically being an immobile quarterback for the first few years of his career. He's over 200 yards more rushing yards this year than he has in any other. So he had 68 out of necessity last week in that comeback win. He could need to take off in spots again. So 25 plus rushing yards for Baker at plus 170. Bri, we both like quarterbacks to run.
I'm taking another quarterback rushing prop and going Jaden Daniels over 48.5 rushing yards. I think it's actually a little bit low, right? We saw Jaden Daniels, right? He set the rookie rushing record with 891 yards. And that's excluding week 18, right? He really didn't have to do anything. So even excluding that one, he does average 54 rushing yards per game. And there was a few games right in the middle of the season. He was a little bit banged up, a little bit hurt, so he wasn't moving around as well. In 4 of his last 5 games, he's had at least 66 yards rushing, and he averaged 76 yards per game during that span here. So again, like we were saying before, I think it's a high-scoring game. And I think Jaden Daniels, again, as a rookie, he's going to need to make a lot of plays with his legs in this game. So I think 48.5 rushing yards for Daniels is pretty low, and he goes over, Sal.
All right, parlay both of those together and just root for the quarterbacks to take off. Monday night, the Vikings are a 1.5 point favorite. 47.5 is the over-under. If you are going to fade any of my picks, which is probably a wise strategy to begin with, this is the one you should fade because this one jumped out at me immediately, Bri. I thought the spread should be 4.5. They had it at 2.5, I think, or 2 at the time. Simmons and I talked about it, but it's down to 1.5. It jumped around. And look, I'll admit they got slammed by the Lions. They weren't winning any aspect of that game. But that Lions team is the best in the conference, maybe the whole league. And I'm stealing this from the Action Network. Over the last 20 years, 4 teams have had 7 or more game straight-up win streak snapped right before a playoff game, as the Vikings did Sunday night. Those 4 teams went 4-0 straight up after their streak got snapped. I think the Vikings, who were 5-1 against the spread in the last 6, are going to do it. I know the Rams won 30-20 the last time they played. McVay on rest advantage is good. Stafford with a clean pocket is good. But this offense also disappears at times. They had 44 against the Bills, and then they had 44 combined in their next 3 games. Vikings have to create pressure, let their number 2 rush defense stuff the Rams, create 3rd and longs. I think Darnold finds his rhythm again after that hiccup last week. 30-21, Bri. Purple people eaters, you're going against me.
Yeah, I'm going against you. You know, I went back and forth on this more than any other game, but I am taking the Rams at +1.5. And look, after such a great season for the Vikings, like I still don't know what they really are, the Vikings, especially on the road here. You know, they had some great wins against the Packers, but outside of that, especially the second half of the season, it's hard to say, you know, how legit this team really is.
All right, let's take a prop for this game. Aaron Jones, 25 or more receiving yards, +142. That's what I'm going with. He's done this in his last 3 games. He had 37 against the Rams the first time they played. This is receiving yards. Last year, too, he had 26 yards receiving against the Rams as a member of the Packers. He's getting targeted between 5 and 6 times out of the backfield, thrown to last few games. This is a sneaky good prop for Jones. You know, KOC is going to want relaxed Darnold early on, right? Some easy screens, set up some big plays, build some confidence. 25 or more receiving yards for Aaron Jones, +140, right? What do I get? Oh, +142 on that. What do you have, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to take Stafford over 235.5 passing yards. And that number, Sal, seems like a lot, right? Based on the last 3 games by Stafford, which is the one thing I would say is that those have been very defensive games. But like I said earlier, the Vikings have had one of the worst pass defense. I know that could be a little misleading because teams catch up in games. But the first meeting between these two, Stafford threw for 279 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think it's a similar type game. And, you know, I think the Vikings, like you had, I think the Vikings are going to put up some points here. So, you know, they're gonna have to move the ball here. Stafford, I think the question is, how does he handle the blitz in this one? I think historically Stafford handles the blitz well. So I think he goes over this 235.5 yards, which maybe ends up a little low considering how bad his numbers have been recently.
All right, Brian, let's do one more because these are so much fun, and FanDuel's offered us a nice menu. You could go closest game, biggest blowout Saturday, biggest blowout Sunday, whatever you want, FanDuel's got it. I'm going to go Justin Jefferson, most receiving yards this round. So that's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I think this one's worth a shot at +650. First of all, it's Minnesota, LA, Monday night, so you get to know which number you need to beat, right? He had 115 the first time they met in October. He has no Flowers to compete with in Baltimore. He's out. I think his biggest competition is going to come in this game, Kupp or Nakua, and I like my chances. 1,500 yards, 5 100-yard games. Give me the best receiver in football, Justin Jefferson. Yeah, I said it, +650. Come on. What do you got, Bri?
I'm going to take Sal, Baker Mayfield, or as Harry calls him, Bacon, to have the most passing yards on just Sunday only at +340. And I like this, too, because it's Sunday night, so you know what number you have to get to. Mayfield was 3rd in the NFL in yards passing per game. And for as great as Allen was, he's next on the list in the Sunday games. He averaged up closer to 230 yards passing per game, excluding that last game. And then Love, Hurts, Nix, Watson, those guys were under or well under 225 yards passing per game. And like we said, Sal, I think this is a high-scoring game. And look at Baker's stats last year in the playoffs. In the 2 games, he averaged 343 yards passing. So I will say take Baker as the most passing yards at +340.
Oh, that's a good one. That's just for Sunday, Bri, right?
Yes, just Sunday, Sal.
If they move that game from Sunday to Monday because they see you're going to win so much money on this prop, you lose automatically. This is in Goodell's hands too much, I think. All right. Hey, Bri, thanks so much. We're going to be right back to wrap things up on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Don't go anywhere. All right, we're all out of time. That does it for Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. My thanks to Dianna Russini. Super interview. I'm glad my request went through. And thanks to Brother Bri. I'm going to deny his Venmo request. Hey, if you could help those affected by the fires here in Los Angeles, go support the Red Cross by making a donation online or texting Red Cross to 90999. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And please always remember, you may feel like an underdog, but just know you're all my favorites. Happy handicapping.